A package in the mail, MSX games from Japan. Collecting without fail, those shoot 'em ups, and that's the plan. He doesn't just collect them, he also codes them too. Join us and we'll go on electric adventures with you.
Hey YouTube, Electric Adventures here with a special video on one of my favourite consoles. It is none other than the Atari Jaguar. Now, followers of my channel will know that I'm a fairly big Atari person from the start, other than all the time I spent talking about MSX and things like that on the computer side of things. But I've always been an Atari person all the way from the start, and the Atari Jaguar, when it first came out, I was very excited about it. It was at the time when I was running my own store, so I had an actual store called Electric Adventures. It's actually, I've used the name Electric Adventures for multiple things over the years, so it was what I published my software titles for, and I thought, well, earlier on I worked at another store for somebody else called Let's Play Games, and that had closed down many years past, and I always liked that feeling of working in a store. So I opened my own. In my store I sold science fiction and fantasy novels, videos. At the time when I opened my store, there were Star Trek and Deep Space Nine videos and Blake 7 and things like that were things people wanted to buy. Collectible cards, comics, wargaming miniatures, and I had a little miniature arcade game section at the back and some video games. Now, around the time I was running the store, that's when both the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo came out. Because I was only a small store, it was very hard for me to stock any of those things. I believe I was actually watching a video recently by The Last Gamer, and he was talking about when he started out, grey importing stuff from overseas to get the latest Japanese things until he was told he couldn't, and then he had to get it from the local suppliers, and he was getting Super Nintendo games, and you could only make like $5 on a game, so it made it very unprofitable or even worthwhile selling them. So we had them because they were popular, and I of course was interested in them. So that's actually when I bought my first Mega Drive and Super Nintendo. They were consoles that actually sat in my store for people to come in and maybe buy a game. I hardly sold any games because I hardly had any stock. I just quite simply couldn't afford to stock them, and it wasn't worth my time. But I had the systems there, and we had little timers next to the thing, and people I think would pay 50 cents or something like that to play the game for a certain amount of time. And then I knew the people, so my previous boss at Let's Play Games knew all of the Atari distributors in Australia, which was originally Futuretronics, and he actually bought a lot of the Atari stock from Futuretronics when Futuretronics went bankrupt. And we had a lot of that in his warehouse, so this upstairs, and I knew the people who were the Atari distributors, and he contacted me out of the blue and said that they were releasing a new console from Atari, and that was the Jaguar, and I bought one for the store. I didn't have it for very long. The first game I played on it was Iron Soldier, which is a 3D mech game. I thought that was fantastic. And then the next game I played was Aliens vs Predator, and that's what I was really excited about for the machine, was Aliens vs Predator, because it's a very special and particular game for the system. So I thought I'd do a bit of video on my Atari Jaguar collection. Now, that actual machine that I had back in that store, when I basically when my first daughter was born, I had another store just up the road who was copying everything I was doing. I was turning over and selling a lot of things, but I wasn't making a lot of money. I actually had 5 staff, and I just didn't see myself as making enough money to support my then first child. And I am a computer programmer, so an opportunity came up to go back into that industry again. So I said, it's just not worthwhile. So I shut the store down and I sold off all of the stock, or pretty much most of the stock. And one of the things I sold was my Atari Jaguar. So I didn't have one for a very, very long time, until I started collecting again. and by chance, can't actually remember where I got it, but I got a copy of Raiden for the Atari Jaguar. I'll bring out that copy. So this is the copy here. So this was sitting on my collection shelf for probably 3 years, and I'd never seen an Atari Jaguar pop up. And I didn't even know back in the day that Raiden came out for the Atari Jaguar. And Raiden's one of my favourite arcade games. So it was always in my mind that maybe I'd find a Jaguar one day, you know, maybe loose or second hand off somebody, and I'd be able to play this game. So I didn't on-sell it to anybody else, because I generally don't collect games for systems I don't have. And I was always hoping I would, you know, get a Jaguar. And you always hear the hype about how, you know, the games on the Jaguar are so bad. And it's not all, as I've found out as I have assembled the collection, and I'm going to go through in a minute. Not all the games are as bad as people think. It's only a select few games that were a bit lazily ported at the time. So this is my system. I managed to get this locally in Australia for quite a reasonable price. I think it might have been like $150 at the time, and the box is in really good condition. It's a unit that has been brought across from Europe, I believe. I'm not going to open the box. I'll just grab the system to do it. Here it is. So here's the system, for those that are not familiar. It's, you know, one of the last consoles to come in a very interesting, sexy shape, if you know what I mean. They put a lot of effort into designing the console, and there's been... this particular mould has ended up at a dentist for putting some, you know, some sort of electronics in. Then you had the debacle that was the Coleco Chameleon that tried to use the shell. Why they wanted to use the shell for a Coleco based thing is beyond me. But anyway, but it is a very interesting machine. Nice big cartridge slot, power button, 2 controller ports on the front, and around the back we have a power, an RF, and DSP output. I haven't used that for anything. And then this port here, which is like an expansion port, and that's where I plug in my AV cord. That gives me nice RGB out. So and that does a good job. It get a nice, good, solid picture, and it's a good solid console. It's got a bit of weight behind it. Then you have the controller, which you don't mind too much. It's not the best for shoot 'em up type games, so I do struggle actually playing that Raiden game with this. So here's the controller. I've got an it's got the keypad with overlays. Not many games came with overlays, so Aliens vs Predator is one of the games that actually does use the overlay, so I've left that in there as an example. I only have the one controller. I wouldn't mind another one. I have put my name down for, there's a set of Pro controllers being made at some stage, but I haven't done anything for that for a while, and I would really love, and I'll get to Tempest in a little while, there's a version from Atari Age that has a spinner built into it specifically for playing Tempest. And it's got quite a decent length of cable as well, so you don't have that problem, and being a larger hand person, it actually does fit in the hand quite nicely. The D-pad's not too bad, and you can reach all the buttons with your thumbs. So it's not too bad. It's just me with my challenge neck thing with a shoot 'em up. I can't continually press my thumb all the time, so it's not the best. So I do prefer arcade controllers. I really should make an arcade controller from my Jaguar probably at some stage. So controllers, not too bad. I only have the one though. So going through the games, we'll do them in alphabetical order, although I will skip to one. So inside this particular Jaguar, and this is not what came in my Jaguar back in the day, I got Iron Soldier, was Cybermorph. And I have one overlay that came with Cybermorph. Now Cybermorph was sort of like a 3D game to show off the 3D capabilities of the system. It is definitely not the best game in the world, and it's one of those games that I suppose sort of tarnished the reputation of the system, because it tries to do some things but doesn't quite get it right, and it's not what the Jaguar is about to me. So I've got it because it came with the system, but it's not a game that I play. So of course, going through an alphabetical order, and I am going to include some homebrew games that I've bought since, not just original games here, because I'm going to do my whole collection, so we'll talk about those as we go. So the first title, of course, is Aliens vs Predator. So if you're going to own one game on the Atari Jaguar that truly uses the system's capabilities properly, Atari Jaguar is one of those. Aliens vs Predator is one of those games. It really looks great. I will try and put some game footage up here while I'm talking about a particular title. You can play as the alien or the predator or the Marines. This game came out before the PC version, which came out later, and then was Aliens vs Predator 2, which ended up being a great multiplayer game. And it really does have quite good graphics and effects for the time when it came out. Of course, the later PC releases with more advanced graphics cards and everything obviously take the visuals to the next level, but this is still a very fun game and very playable for the time. Great sound effects, and it was programmed by a team of people who understood about the Atari Jaguar hardware. So you need to put into context the time when the Atari Jaguar came out. You still had a lot of systems that have a single processor and graphics chips and sound chips and things like that. The Atari Jaguar has multiple processors in it that you're supposed to use for different things, and the concept of programming for multiple chips is still something that some people can't get their head around. And it's actually even taken a while in the PC gaming area for the gaming market to get used to the fact that modern CPUs now have multiple cores in them that allow multiple threads to run, and this is the multi-threaded programming. Well, the same thing, when the Atari Jaguar came out, that was an extremely new concept, and it was something that not every programmer could get their mind around. So the people who, I'm having a blank in the team that put this together, they knew what they're doing. They read all the specs in the Atari Jaguar, and they spent the time to write a game specifically for the system. And this is also a problem in modern day, where you have the platforms are so similar. People are just writing games that will run on all the systems and aren't necessarily pushing the hardware to its full capabilities. So this is an example of where you push the system. So Aliens vs Predator, especially if you're into that 3D shooter maze running sort of thing, definitely should be on your list of titles. Now, strictly alphabetical order, we're going to do a homebrew next. Now, so this is a homebrew game. It is very well done as far as the game's concerned. It is what's called an Atari STE lazy port. The MSX and the Coleco suffers from this, or Coleco does especially, suffers from this a lot, where they've taken the original Atari STE game, so because the Jaguar has more capabilities than what the Atari ST and even the Amiga at the time has, and they've ported the game across. Now, it's a new game for the system, so I'm not knocking it, and it is fun. It is probably not the type of game that really uses the Jaguar hardware how it could be used. Does that detract from it being a good game in its own right? No. So I don't mind this sort of game. Now, I'm not familiar with whether the authors of this port sought the full permission of the original authors of the game, which is something that I definitely don't approve of if it doesn't happen. I am very cautious with these ones, but it doesn't make it a bad game. So the original arcade game was Super Sprint. Badlands is the sequel to that, so it's a multiplayer isometric racing game, and it is fun, and it actually does play quite well. But I'm not going to dive too much into the lazy port scenario. Now, so the next game is a 3D game. Is it the best game in the system? No. Is it still reasonably fun to play? It's not too bad. I do like racing games. It's checkered flag, so it is 3D with filled polygons. Obviously, the draw distance is nothing like you can do on the Saturn or the PlayStation, but it's not a bad 3D polygon racing game. It is, a Formula 1 type game. Formula 1 games are always hard, so it's not easy, and it is a little buggy. But it's not too bad, and it is trying to use some of the 3D capabilities that the Jaguar can do. So, checkered flag, not too bad. Next we have another original release game. that I didn't realise came out for the system, and it's quite well done. And it's cannon fodder. So cannon fodder, you have a group of soldiers, and you have to give them commands for them to basically kill the enemy and take over bases and things like that. And it's a really good, fun game. Once again, there is nothing about this that uses the Jaguar's extended graphics capabilities, but it is still quite a well done port. So it's probably just as good as the Amiga and Atari SD versions back in the day, and it's a good fun game. So next we go for another homebrew. This one I find hasn't been done too bad at all. Probably about the only thing I struggle with this is once again is the controller and the fire buttons, and why I really need to make an arcade controller, and it's Commando. They've done a good job with the music, they're using the sprite capabilities of the Jaguar, and it's not too big and it plays quite well. I actually fairly regularly plug this in and have a go. I'm just not very good at it, probably because of the joystick situation, which is why I really need to make myself an arcade joystick. So highly out of the homebrews, highly recommended. Okay, now the next one, and I did need to get more of these particular cases at some stage, is Defender 2000, which was written by none other than Jeff Minter, who really did understand every single system he has programmed a game for. He spent the time and learnt that system. Now, it's probably not his best work on the Jaguar, we'll get to that later, but it is still... Sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat. We'll have a coffee. It has the original Defender on there as well. Sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong box. And an enhanced version. It plays very fast. Just like the original Defender, it's very hard. It's not my favourite game on the system, but it's not too bad. And once again, probably my main complaint with it is hard to play this sort of fast action shooting game with the controller, with the state of my hands. So, once again, I need to get my finger out and make myself an arcade stick for this machine. I just need to work out what sort of electronics I need, and I don't have even a broken controller to try and sacrifice a circuit board. So I don't know whether there's aftermarket circuit boards you can get that you can build a controller around, like I've done with the Coleco, but something I need to look into. So, very good game. If you're into this type of shooter, definitely worth getting. That's my dog barks. So next we have, and this one I was quite impressed with. So this is Doom, and of the systems of the time, it uses the most screen space after the DOS version. It's quite colourful. It plays really, really well. I believe, I'm not sure if I'm confusing this and Wolfenstein, which is also on the system, but I believe it may be missing. It was supposed to have music, and there's a bug in the cartridge which means that the music doesn't play. It still does have sound effects and things like that, and this is really good. This was actually quite a surprise. This wasn't on my original list of titles that I was going to get for the system. So some of these titles have come up as opportunity to buy particular titles, or have come with other titles that I really wanted. This one popped up and the price wasn't too bad, and I thought, well, I really like PC Doom, I'll give this a try. I got this one and it's actually really playable, a very good version, runs very fast, and is sort of the type of title that is suited to the hardware when programmed properly. So, it's another 3D game that, not overly high res or anything like that, but it's perfectly suited to the hardware. So that one was a surprise. So here's an example of a title that came with another title. I haven't played this one very much. It's a puzzle game called Flip Out. It is definitely a bit muddy in the colours chosen and things like that, and not quite my cup of tea. I've probably played that very little, so an okay one. So that's one of those so-so titles that you don't hear a lot about. Now the next one, it took me quite a while to find a copy of this. So this is the original title that I got for the Jaguar back in the day, and it's none other than Iron Soldier. I was extremely impressed and blown away by this title back in the day as a launch title for the Jaguar. here in Australia, and it's still good fun to play. There is an Iron Soldier 2 that is for the CD expansion for the Atari Jaguar that I don't have. I don't have a CD drive for the Jaguar, unfortunately, that's supposed to improve on this. So this was, you know, one of the games rushed out to come out with the system, so it does have a couple of bugs, and probably could have had a bit more features, and it does get a little bit samey when you play. It doesn't quite capture that mech battle action that you're wanting from a mech game, and I actually do quite like mech games, but it's still a good fun game and brings me a lot of nostalgia and memories from back in the day when I first got my Jaguar. So not too bad. Now I do have one-on-one fighter game. Once again, a opportunity to buy another title that I didn't have that wasn't too expensive, and I thought I'd give it a try. But one-on-one fighter games are not really my cup of tea, so I'm probably not the best judge of whether this is any good. But this is Kasumi Ninja. But as far as the graphics are concerned, they look pretty good for the time, and it's not too bad, but I am rubbish at these games, and I suppose it's a game that probably cries out for more buttons as well on the controller, because you've only got the 3, but at least you've got 3 rather than 1 or 2, so it's, from my limited experience with one-on-one fighters, it's not too bad, and it was worth picking. As you can see, my copy's not too bad condition. None of my boxes have crashed, some of them got a bit of wear and things like that, so it was a worthwhile addition to the collection. The next one is one that I haven't had very long, and took a while to find a copy. It was always on my to-get list, and it's Missile Command 3D. This is actually quite a good fun game. It's got the original Missile Command on there as well, plus a pure 3D version where you're actually, you know, in a 3D environment and shooting down missiles, and it's damn hard, but quite good fun. But it is a game I need to put some more time into and play it a bit more. I haven't had it very long, so took a while to find a copy. But yes, definitely recommended if you're into that sort of thing. But once again, it's another one that's sort of hinting at some of the graphic capabilities of the system. So pile 2, so we're going to hold up Raiden again, so I've already sort of talked about it. Never knew that Raiden came out in the system back in the day. If I had known that, I probably would have bought a copy back then. It does suffer a little bit from screen space compared to some of the other versions, so it's not the best port of Raiden in the arcade, but it has been changed slightly to suit the system, and at the end of the day, once again, with a decent arcade controller, is quite a very vibrant and colourful version of Raiden. As far as home ports go, the PC Engine is probably the best one, followed by the Mega Drive Genesis, and then this one. Although there is apparently one for the Atari Lynx that I don't have that's supposed to be quite good, so I'm only comparing the ones I have. Next is another title I haven't had very long. I actually got it at the same time as Missile Command. I have played it a bit, and this is really good fun, and so much so that there is a second, so this is a pinball title, and there is a second one. I want to get that at some stage. So it's Pinball Fantasies. I really like pinball. It has 4 tables, they scroll, they're colourful, and it's not a bad version. Once again, on par with the Amiga version. Once again, is this a game that's truly using the capability of the system? Probably not. Does that ruin the enjoyment of the game? Not at all. It is a good fun game. If you like pinball games, it's worth getting. Right, next, and this one was a surprise. Once again, I've always liked Pitfall from back in the day. So Pitfall, the main adventure. This is really well done on the Jaguar, very nice and colourful. I'd never played this before I got it, and I don't regret getting it. It's actually not a bad platformer and has really vibrant, this is the thing on the Jaguar, it has quite a large colour palette, so you can get very vibrant colours and lots of colour on the screen, and it does layers very well, so it depends on the programmer whether they've used it properly. But this is one of the games that actually does quite a good job of that, and you don't hear a lot of people talking about this one. It's not easy, but what platform games of the era are, but there's lots of levels and game to play through, so it's a really good title. And the platform game that I had sawn before I got back into Jaguar, but didn't see back in the day, and really is one of the most colourful games on the system, is Rayman. And I actually hadn't played a Rayman game until I played this at the very first PAX Oz, where I saw Tempest 2000 and Rayman running on the Atari Jaguar for the first time, and I couldn't get over how colourful this game is. It really is a fantastic version of the Rayman games, and I actually subsequently got the Rayman games for the PlayStation Vita to play them after that. So I hadn't actually, as I said, I had not played a Rayman game before I played this one, and this one is really good. It captures all the original character of Rayman and everything like that, and is a great platformer. That has a lot. There's a lot of game in this one, so this one's highly recommended. So next, this is a game that I had heard about back in the day. I am a fairly big sci-fi role-playing game person, although I don't actually have this one as far as a sci-fi role-playing game. But this is Syndicate. Was also came out on the Atari ST and the Amiga back in the day. Once again, not a title that totally uses the system capabilities, but it showed that the system can play a lot of the good titles that came out on the Atari ST and Amiga, and it is quite a good strategy action game. I probably haven't had enough time to really give it a proper play through, but it's a really good version of the game, and there is a lot to do in it. So, and now we come to my new absolute favourite game on the system, and one where pretty much the cartridge stays either next to or in the console at all times, and it is none other than Tempest 2000, written by Jeff Minter. This is Jeff Minter at his absolute best, and the versions of Tempest and TX K that have come out after that, and even Tempest 4000, which came out for the PlayStation 4, all evolved from this version of an evolution of Tempest. It really is fantastic. It really uses the console full capabilities, and it is a fantastic, trippy, fun game. The only improvement is that one day I would like to get the spinner controller to truly take advantage of the gameplay in it. I can still do quite well in the game. I may add on some bonus gameplay of this at the end, because it's pretty much my pick of the Jaguar games. And if you're going to get a Jaguar and one game, this is the one I would choose. And for your second game, you can get Tempest Predator. So it's my absolute favourite game on the system, and worth having the whole system for. Next, we have another one that came with another game, but has actually been quite a surprise. Not too bad. Is Theme Park. I never really played Theme Park on the PC back in the day. I did play Sim City. It's all related to those sort of ones, where you've got to set up and run your own theme park. Once again, it's more a game suited towards the computers than a console, but it's quite interesting to see this sort of title come out, and this console doesn't do a bad job with it. Right, next one is also a title that came with another one, and is one of the worst titles on the system. I only have a copy because it came with my copy of Tempest, and it was cheaper buying. That was the cheapest way for me to get my Tempest copy, was to get this, and it is Trevor McFur in the, Crescent Galaxy. This is atrocious. This is a terrible shooter type game. I don't know what they were thinking. It's just abysmal. It's like there are actually a lot of bad shooting games for both the Amiga and the Atari ST at that period, where I suppose they had all this power and all these, and they wanted to use all these colours and things like that, and gameplay completely suffered because of it. It's just a thing of its time, where people just put all these colourful, picturesque backgrounds in the thing, and they forgot about to actually put a playable game in the game. So don't buy this one. Next is another surprise of the original titles, is Wolfenstein 3D. Once again, a fantastic version of the game. It plays really well, plays really fast. It is better than the PC version. It has improvements over it. It has really great sound and atmospheric music, and as it plays really fast. So it is actually an improvement on the original and worth having. And I got this one first, and that's why I decided to get Doom afterwards, because I enjoyed this one so much. But that is actually quite an enjoyable title and worth flipping out the library. So we have one more title, and it's not an original. It's actually the first homebrew that I bought, and it's basically because I was such a fan of the original on the Atari SD when I had back in the day. It also came out for the Amiga. Is Xenon Mega Blast. It has permission via the Bitmap Brothers to publish this, and it has, but it does have different music than the original. I don't think they could get the rights from, was it Bomb the Blast, I think, the original thing, although I believe the original is still actually hidden on the cartridge somewhere that you have to unlock it. A couple of people have told me that, but I haven't actually spent the time to unlock it. So this was the first homebrew title that I bought, and I haven't regretted it because I really do like playing this game. It's not the best shoot 'em up in the world, but it has a lot of nostalgic memories for me, and I do enjoy it. I actually do have the Mega Drive version, which I enjoy playing more, mainly because I have an arcade controller. So once again, I'll probably get more enjoyment out of some of the shoot 'em up titles on the system if I had a better controller, which I will definitely. Don't have infinite funds. Now, I did buy at one stage a whole lot of empty Jaguar title boxes. I actually got a little mizzled at the time, and I thought there was a lot of complete titles. I didn't pay a lot for it, thank God. But some of these titles you've seen, I have made complete by buying the loose cartridge. I have spares of the internal shells, and so some of these other titles, I'm not in a hurry to get any of them, but if I find loose cartridges for them, I'll definitely complete them. So the other pinball title is Ruiner Pinball, so it has another 4 pinballs tables. They look very interesting, so definitely would really like to find a loose cartridge for that one. Next we have another 2-player beat 'em up that looks absolutely atrocious. It's called Fight for Life. So maybe one day I'll get a loose cartridge just to complete it, because I have the box just for completeness, but I would never pay very much money for it because I probably wouldn't play it. I do believe this game's not supposed to be too bad. This is Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. It looks more of a rather than a one-on-one fighter, although is it a beat 'em up, which I would probably enjoy more than a one-on-one fighter. I don't know. I haven't played it. I haven't looked at any gameplay, so maybe that one's worth tracking down a loose cartridge for. Another platform game. It does look nice and colourful, called Bubsy. It's once again loose box. So if I come across a loose cartridge of that, I'll probably get that. Another one that I'm probably not in a super rush to get hold of is Supercross 3D. 3D game. I don't think it's supposed to be that good, but you never know. A puzzle game called Zoop. Looks nice and colourful. Haven't played it, so don't know enough about it. I actually have, for those who want to trade with me, I have a spare empty box of cannon fodder, because I had the empty box and I didn't find the cartridge. I found a complete copy for quite a decent price. And I have an empty box of Baldies, which was a Jaguar CD game. I'll probably never get that because I don't think I'm ever going to be able to find a Jaguar CD for a price that I can afford. As much as I would like to get a Jaguar CD, they don't come up very often, and they come up for a lot of money. So that is my Atari Jaguar collection. I hope you enjoyed walking through it with me, and I'm going to leave you now with some Tempest 2000 gameplay, because I think, seriously, I am perfectly happy having an Atari Jaguar and having Tempest 2000. I could let all the other games go and I could keep that one, although there'd probably be a fight on your hands for Aliens vs Predator as well. So I'm Electric Adventures. Thanks to all my subscribers. Thanks for watching. Let's go play Tempest. Right, so here we go with Tempest. So obviously the Jaguar can do scaling, rotating on independent planes. There are multiple different versions included in the game. There's very trippy sound effects. I'm just going to start from the beginning. So you shoot the enemies as they come up the side, and you collect the add-ons. You can shoot their fire as well. So now jumps enabled. So jump. Oops. Oops, missed one. Let's jump. Missed that again. Missing all the bonuses. Let's get the bonus points. So it's been quite generous. So AI Droid gives us a second fire. So you really got to stop them from getting to the top level, otherwise that's where you can get killed, other than being shot. As usual, wonderful Jeff Minter trippy music and speech.
One and all.
The laser. You have different shape. So I'm not going to actively demonstrate the jump properly until you really see from the games where a spinner controller would help a lot. And you do have like a zap everything, which you can use once per stage. And that's the Super Zapper recharge, you get once per level. A flat plane one, this one. So it's not too, if you know the gameplay, it's not too hard to start with. Rely on jump too much yet, so we can just start extra life. Oh, yes. So that lets you into the different enemy types gradually. And we've built up a reasonable thing of lives. It starts getting a bit harder from this frame, I think. Still got spring in here, so you get enemies get spread out a little bit more now. So this is where jump is good. Now we've got spikes, so the enemies build up spikes from the bottom. You can shoot them out of the way, but you've got to watch as you go down into the maze that you don't run into them. Jump. There we go. That's how you die. I could have saved myself with a Super Zapper though. Okay. You start a level again if you die. Okay, now this is the intermediary bonus level sort of thing. To fly through the rings. And how close to the middle of the ring you pass through it is how much bonuses you get. So we sped up then, we're going through that last ring. It looks pretty sedate and easy, but it's starting to... so. Oops. Oh, I just did that one. Again. Oh, God. And I missed. Starts getting a bit harder. Got heaps of lives, so now I can try. Only trouble is that does take you a bit out of the zone. This one's a split into two. Ah. Uh-oh. This happens occasionally with my Jaguar when the connectors get dirty. So, unfortunately, it has crashed. So I've lost my game. I won't be able to play it to completion. Probably making this video a bit long anyway. I will go clean the cartridge connector in my Jaguar now. Alright, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video on the Atari Jaguar. It truly is one of my favourite consoles in my collection completely. Love playing it all the time. Always have games out in it, next to it, ready to play. Alright, I'm Military Adventures. Thanks to all my subscribers. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.